What's going on? Happy New Year. Happy 2025. This is your uh, history and politics and economics expert sounding board, a friend Tinoco coming at you from the southern edge of North Memphis. And I'm here to tell you what you need to know and not what you want to hear. And what has compelled me to um, basically forego my long absence from addressing important topics with respect to U.S. Mexican uh, national international relations, history, politics, affairs, and such. Well, basically, Donald J. Trump, number 45 47, individual one, is showing his hand. Um, so, of course, he wants to, he has said that the United States has an interest in annexing Greenland as a territory. Um, he has an interest in annexing Canada. He has an interest in re-annexing the Panama Canal Zone that we used to have up until 1999, because supposedly American shipping companies are paying too much. Wow. And he has an interest in leveling tariffs on Mexico and Canada because Mexico and Canada are fleecing the United States. Well, let us not forget that the USMCA trilateral trade treaty was written by none other than Donald Trump himself in order to undo the NAFTA, which was the worst trade deal in the history of trade deals, if you all recall, right? But um, anyway, so there's been a specific comment about coming from the president elect about renaming the Gulf of Mexico. And it's in its face a ridiculous proposition to rename it from the Gulf of Mexico to Gulf of America. Mind you, the Gulf of Mexico was such before the United States was a country. It was such Gulf of Mexico before Mexico was even anything resembling what it is now. Mexico, it originally what one would call Mexico, is a capital city and is also a large territory in south central Mexico with the Gulf Coast. There are other territories of the former New Spain, but they were all administered from the new Spanish capital, Novo Hispanic capital of Mexico City, the former Aztec capital of Tenochtitlan. But anyway, so would have had any problems, of course, by this being named the Gulf of Mexico. However, I need to explain to the audience that this is not something that is being taken as lightly as Dr. Scheinbaum, Mexico's president, who won with a large mandate and continues to benefit from um, uh, a upper and lower house in her own party, the Morena party, and benefits from a outgoing judiciary at all levels because they will now be elected. Um, coming, I guess we'll have a 50% turnover next year, and with the judiciary at all levels, and a 50% turnover elections of the following year, 2026. So, anyhow, um, what am I getting at? President Scheinbaum has made this famous troll job today about renaming um, basically the former largest expanse of new Spanish claims, Novo Hispanic claims, into British Columbia, the mid southern United States, Florida, um, Kansas, all of Louisiana territory, basically. Um, these were all, using a map which was um, published around the time of the founding of the Jamestown. You'll notice the Carolinas are also part of Mexican America on this map. By the way, there was an interesting debate in Spanish Florida about whether or not to vanquish the Jamestown colony in the same way they vanquished the French Huguenots in the mid-Atlantic states. That would have been an interesting, alternative history to explore. But anyhow, this is the reality, the present reality of the Gulf of Mexico. Mexico has territorial waters, which are established because of a treaty that is was signed between U.S. and Mexico in 1977. There are small, deep water areas, relatively small areas, which are basically donut holes between Mexican claims for territorial water and American claims to territorial water. So, at minimum, one would suggest that the United States wants to get at these territorial waters. It look like a couple of cat eyes in the middle um, of um, of the Gulf Coast, of the Gulf of Mexico, by the way. Now, one would speculate there's a lot of oil in these international territorial waters in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico. Not all of the Gulf of Mexico, 90% of it is either basically under the jurisdiction of the United States or under the jurisdiction of Mexico. Now, I want to take a sidebar here. One of my major mentors, a lot of my major basic people that I look after and model myself after, with respect to where I get my information from, is a professor at the UNAM named Alfredo Jalife. UNAM is basically the National State Museum in Mexico. And Alfredo Jalife he's a political scientist of Lebanese origin in Mexico. And he testified at the Mexican legislature when they were discussing energy reform and the interests in privatizing Mexican energy. And this was probably around the year 2000. What was really notable about his testimony was that the United States has large, influential oil companies with a lot of capital, a lot of equipment, but what they're running out of is access. As early as 2000, 2004, whatever this occurred, Alfredo Jalife already realized that the United States had a crisis of access. U.S. oil companies had a crisis of access to cheap reserves. And of course, I don't need to belabor the point. This is proven to be true. It is every day more and more true. Why is the U.S. so harsh on Syria? Why is it so harsh on Venezuela? Oil. Why is it so harsh on Russia? Oil. Why does the United States want to Um, why would the United States have an interest in the Gulf of Mexico? Oil. This is not a mystery. I'm going to go into some of the cases, but Mexicans, a lot of the Mexicans in the United States, some Mexican Americans even, see the U.S. coming from a long way out, a very long way out. It seems like the United States or people acting on behalf of the United States can't do a single thing, especially notable in the current administration, the outgoing administration, of course, and the incoming administration. They can't do a single thing with respect to Mexico without expressing the intent to exercise a certain amount of influence out of covetousness of the resources and wealth that exists in that country. Namely, well, first of all, let's say oil. As you may know, Mexico has a state owned enterprise for oil. And the United States cannot participate in the Mexican extraction, cannot participate in the Mexican refinery or distribution of oil. Those are taken care of by the federal government. And it's been an important policy tool to keep inflation down in Mexico. Conversely, the interests of the oil industry in the United States has been a major driver of inflation in the United States. These energy sovereignty policies, which were advocated by Dr. Scheinbaum's predecessor, Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador, who founded the party, were part and parcel of the mandate. They did not want more oil exploration. They were going to drill, baby, drill, refine, baby, refine, pump, baby, pump. And so far, Mexican production has been increasing, and Mexican independence has been increasing because Mexico enjoys lots of access to oil relative to its own demands, unlike the United States. Let's be clear. The U.S. oil industry wants access to Mexican oil. Let's also be clear. Joe Biden is beholden to these energy interests. Donald Trump will come in beholden to these energy interests. He's spoken about Venezuelan oil and Syrian oil at length about stealing or an opportunity missed to steal the oil. The United States agency, State Department and related agencies, DEA or such, are definitely looking to, well, what we're definitely looking to support a opposition party candidate that will promote access to Mexican oil, drilling, refining, distribution, and such, marketing. Mr. Trump's comments about the Gulf of Mexico are sustaining a dynamic in Mexico that was launched since the midterm elections with respect to comments by a number of mostly Republican, but let's include who's that guy from the Cuban guy from New Jersey? I forget his name, Menendez. Okay, there are strong interjectionists advocating for interference in Mexico on several levels. Let's consider Elon Musk now that he's close to the levels of power. Elon Musk, at variance of all these other billionaires, is in the border, taking, giving, calling attention to the border and the problems of the border. Mexicans are not coming to the border, but he's advocating for solutions to the border crisis as a non-U.S. citizen, but a big U.S. investor. This is real. Is he a U.S. citizen or not? I don't know. He's not. He's not a U.S. born national. He's a South African born national. Now, Mexico's actually developing their own compact electric car. By the way, oof, sticking it to Elon Musk. But so yeah, Elon Musk, one would have to suspect that he's interested in Mexico's lithium. Mexico is not the leading, but is a major producer of lithium, and most of its lithium reserves are on the northwest near the Arizona border. The cartels exist further down the coast from this area in neighboring states. The strongest cartels. Now let's consider the cartels for a moment. There's been a lot of talk about going in and fighting the cartels without Mexico's permission, because Mexico is not going to give permission for U.S. boots to be on the ground, or U.S. choppers to fly over, or U.S. tanks to roll in Mexican territory. There has been no press about the amazing military operations conducted to confiscate and bring down certain cartel activity. There's been no answers for the United States with respect to the kidnapping of El Mayo with the cooperation of El Chapo's sons, who worked with the United States, who were allowed landing privileges in Las Cruces Airport in order to bring El Mayo to justice and leave the Sinaloa cartel in the complete control of the sons of El Chapo. Make no mistake, this was done with the United States direction and cooperation. Make no mistake also that the proposed ambassador to Mexico is a veteran of the Green Berets, is a veteran of the Southern Command of the United States, used to topple anti-capitalist regimes. Basically, you fix your country, you adopt measures to help your people at the expense of U.S. special interests that are in that country, and the U.S. special interests call for help to people like Hillary Clinton or Laura Richardson, and they send the troops. That's how it goes. That's how it goes. And this guy, I forget his name, Thompson, I believe, is who was nominated to be ambassador to Mexico. That'll be a center of interference. That'll be a center of foreign interference within Mexican territory if he goes there. Make no mistake about it. That's his bread and butter. That's why he was nominated. He wasn't nominated because of some sort of a diplomatic luminary. He's an operative. So anyway, when Donald Trump speaks about invading Mexico, about taking out the cartels, about we need to do something about the drugs, without offering without reversing the policies that gave us the drugs. We'll talk about that more in length, okay? When he talks about renaming, which can be construed as annexing the Gulf of Mexico, um, Mexicans are very sensitive to this. Little has been more effective to recruit young Mexican men and women to join the Mexican armed forces than the public proclamations and policy decisions and staffing decisions of Republicans mostly for the last 2 years. So Mexico and Mexicans see it coming. It will not catch them by surprise. They will respond if we as the United States conducts an operation in Mexico. It will be, there will be casualties on the U.S. side. And I fear there will be a lot of people who are anti-partisan on the U.S. side. This is a non-starter. This is not what we need to bring up. A policy of hostility is only good for the benefit of special interests. It is not good for the people of the United States and the people of Mexico. Just to let you know, it won't be a walk in the park. This is your boy, Efren Tinoco, coming at you from the southern edge of North Memphis. And we will have more on related topics later. Bye-bye.